All right. Apologies for the delays, everyone. Having some technical difficulties with Zoom, with the internet, with pretty much everything right now. But thank you so much for joining us. This is the first Ask a Blue session. We'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we will get started. Can everyone see okay? Can everyone see the screen? Yeah. The PowerPoint? Fantastic. Pete, Spence, you guys ready?
Yep.
All good.
Fantastic. Then let's get started. Greetings, folks. My name is Chris Knoblock. I work for BaseballSoftballUK. I do the public relations, and I'm a broadcaster as well. I also work for the commercial team. This is the first Ask a Blue session for the general public. We've done them for our Slowpitch Softball Academy, which we run a few times every year. And obviously with the current climate, we've been running them online, doing 6 different Slowpitch Softball Academy sessions. But Ask a Blue was so popular and so informative that we decided to open it up to the general public. This is the first of 2 sessions. The other one will be on Wednesday night, hopefully with a better internet and better Zoom quality. But we are very privileged tonight to be joined by BASU Blue, Pete Saunders and Spencer Suckling. They have the combined umpiring experience of redacted years. All I can say is it's longer than I've been on this planet, which is also redacted for security purposes. But it's a pleasure to have everyone who's registered for the course. Once the course is complete tonight, the session, shall I say, not the course, is complete tonight, we will post the video tomorrow on our YouTube channel, as well as on BSUK's Facebook and Twitter. And we will also send out an email for the next session that has a link to this video on Wednesday. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat or wait until the end of a slide. I know Pete and Spence do a great job of asking for questions at the end of each slide. So just hold on to your questions and we'll get to them at that point. There are also a couple of questions that we had asked in advance, and both Pete and Spence will get to those during the presentation. Otherwise, please keep your sound on mute. That's to prevent interruptions, because whoever is talking, their face appears in the nice little box. And we want to see Pete's face as much as possible when he's talking. Same with Spence, which is why I'm going to mute myself as soon as I'm done with this spiel. At the end, we'll do more questions and answers, and there will be information on how you can get a hold of each of us if you have any questions, follow-ups, that type of thing. So without further ado, Pete, Spence, take it away.
Okay, let's go on the... Oops. What's going on here? So technical difficulties again. Hello everyone, I'm Pete. I think a lot of you, most of you know me. As Chris said, this is the first of 2 sessions when you get a chance to ask any questions of umpiring questions that you might have queries about. The slideshow here should lead us through a few questions that we generally get. Oh, come on, what's going on here? All right. Here we go. So introductions. As Chris said, we've been doing this for far too many years at various levels, and you know, from all grassroots levels up to higher. This is the basis of what we're trying to do or want to do on the 2 sessions. Today, understanding strike zones, what pitchers sometimes get up to. One of the questions asked was how to judge the 6-foot, 12-foot arc levels. Spence will be doing that for you. When does a catch or a tag not a catch or a tag. Interference and obstruction, what's the difference? I think this one might go on for a bit longer because there's been a lot of conversations on social media about when you should and shouldn't call interference and obstruction. And the infield fly rule demystified. I think the rule book has too many words in it. It could be simplified, which we'll do when we get to that section. On Wednesday, we're looking at awards, base awards for overthrows, etc. Substitutions and lineups, just a quick overview of how you should fill in your lineup cards, your batting order, and what you should do when you want to do a substitution. Fun on one, some of the things that happen on first base. Obviously, it's a little different to the other bases on the diamond. And fair or foul, which also proved very popular. When is a ball foul? When is it fair? Very, very important for players to understand what they should do, and umpires what they should do when the ball is foul or fair. So we'll go straight into topic 1, understanding strike zone. Have you got the poll seems to be in front of the slide, or that might just be my computer?
No, unfortunately, the poll questions, you may be able to access them through Zoom, but unfortunately, I think they're tied to my computer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They came up.
Yeah, they came up. They were just right in front of the slide, so I think everyone will have to move them out of the way on their own computers. Okay, so what we've done here, we've got some statements, and we're going to ask you whether they're true or false. And then once everyone's done their answers, we'll explain what the right answer is and why. So the first one, the dimensions of the batter's box are 3 feet wide, 7 feet long. The lines are considered as being part of the batter's box. Over to you, Spence.
The second one is a pitch ball must have a minimum arc of 6 foot or 12 foot, 1.83 to 3.65, if you want it in meters.
Those Europeans amongst you. In slow pitch, the strike zone is the space over any part of home plate that's between the batter's armpits and knees when the batter assumes their natural stance. So if you have a look at all 3 of those and decide whether you think it's true or false, and when we've got a bunch of votes in, we can just go through them. Looking good so far. Now we have a couple of differences.
Everyone's in?
That's it. Okay, on the first one, everyone said true. Well done. It is true. It is 7 feet long and 3 feet wide. It's a pretty big box, really. And the lines are considered as being part of the batter's box, i.e. when you hit the ball, as long as any part of your foot is touching that line, you are in the box. So, almost all your foot can be out of the box with one toe touching it when you hit the ball, and that foot is in the batter's box. Okay, Spence, I think you've got one false.
Yeah. Well, we've got a correct answer there. So we have a 6 foot minimum and a 12 foot height restriction on the pitches when the ball is being pitched. So yeah, we'll go to questions after Pete's third one.
And in slow pitch, the strike zone is the space over any part of home plate that is between the batter's armpits and knees when they assume their natural batting stance. That is false. It's actually the knees and the shoulders, so a little bit higher than the armpits. I think the armpits was the fast pitch zone a while ago. It's been changed since, but that's in slow pitch. It's your knees to your shoulders over any part of the home plate. Is everyone okay with those? Any sort of follow-up questions?
Yeah. Well, let me bring there was a question which I may as well cover with the actual pitch ball, because I know it's coming later on. But somebody asked, how do you judge on both the heights? I guess every umpire is taught differently, and every umpire has his way of doing things. I simply, with the height of 12 foot, I simply, when I'm at the plate and I make sure that my hat is as it should be, then I take, before the game starts, and then I adjust the peak, so that when the peak is at a height that I believe to be 12 foot, and when I'm ready for the ball to come in, then I'm there. And if I don't see the ball, then that means it's gone higher than 12 foot. It's something practice will teach you. You will get your peak adjusted, and you'll be able to work it from there. Does everybody understand that? The other thing you can do is, if you're at a park where you have buildings around, you can actually focus your eye onto a certain aspect in the distance and use that to monitor your 12 foot, and just say, right, anything goes over that lip, then I'm calling it illegal. Is that clear to everyone?
Also worth mentioning, it's important that you're where the umpire stands, you want to be standing in the same way for every pitch. Otherwise, anything you choose will be, you know, your peak of your cap. If you're leaning over, that might no longer be the 12 feet that you're trying to gauge. So try and stand in the same way comfortably every time when you're umpiring, so that you're
Hold on. That was me. Shit. Did I do something? Pete did it.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry, I'm back. Okay. And are you going to say something about 6 foot as well, Spence?
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought I'd muted myself. With the 6 foot, simply speaking, you've got to look at it at a couple of aspects. A properly arched 6 foot ball will come in with a slight arch and just land behind the plate. Now, all you got to do is, if the ball has an arch on it and it lands behind the plate, then give it as being fair or legal. Right? What you got to look out for is the ones that come in at what we call moderate slow pitch, which is a flat. It's a flat comes across, but then you have a problem with the speed. So sometimes it come in really flat and land the other side of the plate. And people think that because it landed the other side of the plate, that should be called as a strike, but it's got no arch to it. So all you got to do is the arch and the speed and judge it that way for 6 foot.
To be fair, all these things, of course, rely upon our judgment. In what we've decided is our 6 foot and 12 foot, by whatever means we're doing it. But the main thing is on this, well, it's good to be right, but it's much, much better to be consistently right. If you change your strike zone, you won't make friends amongst pitchers. If they know what you're calling, they'll pitch to it. But yeah, get these as close as you can to 6 and 12 feet with the judgment you have. Okay, and any questions, sorry, before we move on to slide? Anything else that we want to bring up on these? Looks like a no. Let's see if we can change slide. Not at the moment. Ah, there we go. When is a catch or a tag not a catch or a tag? Do you want to start this one, Spence? And I'll.
Yeah, I'm just asking Chris a question.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Pete, carry on with number 1. I'm just going to quickly get...
Okay. So statement, we're going to ask you the same as the last one, whether you agree with them or not. It is considered a good catch when a fielder catches a fly ball, i.e. one in the air, with either foot touching the ground entirely in dead ball territory. You there, Spence?
Yeah, I am, Pete. I'm just sorry.
Okay.
I think people want to ask questions, and for some reason we've muted them because Patrick from Switzerland has asked a question on chat in regards to pitching.
Okay, we'll go back.
Patrick, if you'd like to ask a question and you're on your computer, if you hold down the space bar, it will unmute, or you can click unmute. I'll unmute you now, though.
Sorry about that, Patrick.
Okay, well, Patrick, I don't know if Patrick can hear me. That's the problem. Oh,
he doesn't have a microphone. Okay.
Or webcam. Okay, so you're listening to it. Okay. So what Patrick's asking, Patrick's a fast pitch umpire. He's been told that if the ball's risen over the head of the pitcher, it is illegal. So that isn't a very good summary of the whole thing, Patrick, because the ball on a 12-foot arc is going to go way over the pitcher's head. It's going to be much higher than the pitcher. And it's very hard to explain without actually being out with a ball on the field. But the arc will virtually go, I mean, it could go as high as this above a pitcher's head to get the 12-foot arc to go down. I hope that helps you a little bit.
I wondered if he was looking more at the 6-foot line. If the ball doesn't go above the pitcher's head, it's not above 6 foot, which I've heard people say. If you can see the pitcher's head and the ball hasn't come above that line of the pitcher's head,
on the
probably hasn't gone above 6 foot, which is
correct.
Quite likely.
I'm sure Patrick will get back to us if he agrees with that.
Okay, should we move on to the next slide? So I've done number one. It's considered a good catch when a fielder catches a fly ball with either foot touching the ground entirely dead ball territory. So number two there, Spence?
Yeah, and then a field catches the ball in the glove but drops the ball while transferring it to the throwing hand. Is this a legal catch?
The third one is R1. Runner one is running to second base when F4, the second base fielder, touches them with the glove but holding the ball in his other hand. The runner should be called out. So if the poll...
I can't get the poll up.
I've
only got the first slide of polls.
Okay.
Spence, up at the top, there's an arrow pointing down. You should be able to select to the next set of polls.
Yeah. What, the top left-hand corner?
On where it says number one for polls. There should be a little caret arrow pointing down.
No, I haven't got it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, everyone's had a good chance to think about these. So if we just go through them in order, like we did in the last one, but without the poll. Number one, it's considered a good catch when a fielder catches a fly ball with either foot touching the ground entirely in dead ball. No, it's not. If one foot, either one or the other, is entirely in dead ball, not touching the line when the ball's caught, you've got a dead ball there. We play a lot of our games, obviously, on grass fields with no fences, so you can do this. If you had a fence, this wouldn't be possible anyway. Okay, Spence?
So a fielder catches a ball in the glove but drops it while transferring to the throwing hand. This is a legal catch. Well, most certainly it is a legal catch because all we're looking for is making sure that there is firm, proper control of the ball when the catch is made. When you're doing the transferring over, that isn't the actual catch itself. So all you want to do is make sure that the ball was secure inside the glove at the point of the catch. Once the second phase of movement of transferring the ball happens, then that's got nothing to do with the actual catch itself.
Yeah, something we mentioned in the last session. The rule book mentions the release of the ball from the glove is voluntary, i.e. you deliberately let the ball out of the glove because you want to throw it. Therefore, you had control to be able to let it go into the your throwing hand, but you've miscontrolled it then. So as Spence said, that is a good catch. Oh,
I found it.
well, we might as well do third question now.
Yeah,
Runner one
exactly.
is running second base when the fielder tags them basically with an empty glove and the ball's in the other hand. You'll often actually see a player taking the ball out of the glove just before tagging. That is safe, and as an umpire, you've really got to make sure the runner knows he's safe, because he will have probably felt a tag. I know you haven't called him out, but at that point, I will be calling safe very loudly to let the runner know to keep going. The ball's you've either got to be tagged with the ball or the ball in the glove. Once the ball is taken out of the glove is simply a glove. It's it can't be used for tagging without the ball in it. Everyone okay with that? Does that make sense? Yep. I've got some nodding heads. I like that. Not very. I can only see a few actually. So, are you checking the chat, Spence? I haven't got it up on my screen actually, so I can't see it. Just in case Patrick's.
Right, I've got it. Right, Patrick said, could also be a case of obstruction.
Absolutely, it could. Yes. If a fielder is making a tag on somebody with the empty glove, it could potentially be an obstruction. Very much so. Good point. You actually meant to say it. I forgot. We will come on to obstruction, but that is a very, very good point. It's not a fake tag. I've heard people say that's a fake tag. It's not, to me, it's not a fake tag, but it is a safe call and potentially an obstruction as well. Okay. Any more questions on catches and tags? Not seeing any hands raised. So let's.
Ken McCarthy raised the hand.
Ken. Always
Ken.
like to change the.
Let's just try this.
Hi guys.
Hi, Ken.
You hear me now? Yeah, Ken McCarthy here. Yeah,
Hi,
just
Ken.
in relation to the good catch, when either foot is touching the ground in dead ball territory. If someone is standing on, say, you have the collapsible fences, if they're standing on the fence when they make the catch, is that considered a good catch? Even if it's fallen over, or if they're in the air, catch the ball and then they land, is that considered a good catch? And fall into dead ball territory.
Good question. That actually does come into one of these topics. The next session. If they're leaning against the fence, catching the ball, then the fence collapses. As long as they've got control of the ball while they're still in fair territory, leaning against the fence, you've got a good catch. Once they hit the ground, the other side of the fence, the fence goes over with them. At that point, they're dead. It's a dead ball, but the catch would be a legal catch.
Okay.
That answer the question, okay?
Yeah. That's it. And if they're jumping, make a catch when they land.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The awards, whatever.
And as an umpire, you want to be giving that all the credit it deserves, because these are often very good catches. Make sure you're in the right position to see it. Make the call.
Patrick's just come back with a question. Fake tag, in my understanding, occurs when a fielder without a ball applies a tag on a runner,
Yes.
which impedes the runner in advancing.
Yeah. So that's question 3 wouldn't be a fake tag. They actually have got the ball, just not in the right place to make a tag. So it's not a fake tag, but it could be an obstruction. Probably is an obstruction. Is that okay? It's all gone quiet.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. So should we go to the third slide and see what we've got there? Oops. Wrong mouse button. Do you want to start this one then?
Yeah. So the question is, the runner should be called out if they run into a fielder who is trying to field a batted ball.
Number 2, if a runner is obstructed by a defensive player, the ball becomes dead immediately.
And the third one is, the batter hits the ball to the outfield. should F3, 4, 5, or 6 stand on their bases?
And the clock is running. There isn't really a clock on this.
Should read the third one.
So if you want to have a go at the poll. Oh, yeah, we started.
Three more people left to vote.
Come on, people. Get your votes in.
If I had another speaker, I'd play the countdown theme.
I did hear a stat that was the most commonly requested theme at cremations, or music for cremations.
That's dark. Oh, we got 7 out of 9.
We may have lost somebody, actually, because they're all on. Oh, no, we got 8 now on all of them. Okay. So do you want to do the number 1 there, Spence?
Yeah, sorry, I had a question for Pat. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get this thing out of the way. Right, so the runner should be called out if they run into a fielder who is trying to field a batted ball. All right, so there's a couple of things we look at here. And the main thing is that, of course, if they enter with the fielder, then where has the ball gone when the interference happened? So let's take it that it's a straight first base to second base. That fielder has all the right to go and pick up and collect that ball to use it for a play, right? And it is the purpose of the runner who has to get out of the way of the defensive player.
Right, so someone who's actually watching this video now said it's like you have a turn. The pitcher pitches the ball, that's the defences go, then it's the batter who hits it, that's his turn, then it's the fielding team who have the next turn, then it's the runners that have the next turn. So at each point you've got a right of way, and off the batter has hit the ball, the next person that's got the right to sort of field it is the fielder, is infielder in this case. And if they did slightly not field it cleanly the first time, and it sort of bounced down in front of them, they're still trying to field it, so the runner still has to be avoiding the fielder trying to field a fair batted ball.
Yeah, it's only the misfield where the ball gets deflected to either say the left or the right hand side, and obviously then if the runner at the time runs into that deflection where the defensive player is trying to grab the ball because it's deflected, right? Then that obviously is not.
It's no longer a fair batted ball at that point.
Correct.
Okay, number 2. If a runner is obstructed by a defensive player, the ball becomes dead immediately. That's not true. You have what's called a delayed dead ball. You'll see an umpire raise his left arm. It's a bit like in football advantage, because if a runner has been obstructed, but the ball's gone to the outfield, there's every chance they could get more bases. So you what they call protect them with the delayed dead ball signal to where you think the runner would have got. They can't be out between those bases, but you let the play run until either they get to the base and stop, or if they're tagged, you would call a dead ball, and then you would give them the base you think they would have got had they not been obstructed. But you don't call it dead straight away. So get your base coaches to look for umpires putting their arm out, and that's an obstruction. It means the runner can't be out at least between the two bases where they're obstructed, possibly more. So runners shouldn't be looking, but their base coaches should. Okay.
And then going on to the third question, yes, any of those positions or any defensive player who's covering for another player, and that's why F6 is involved in this play, can actually go to a base on one. If runners are heading over to that base, then one of the infielders can cover the base, but they must cover it from the outside of the base, where they are sort of have the heel on the outside of the base. Now, a lot of people will say, no, they've got no right to be on the base. They haven't got any right to be on the base, but they have a right to be on the outfield side of the base with their heel on, hoping to make a play from an outfield throw.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a question on interference and obstruction, which we'll go into more detail once you've done the slides. But there's a definition of obstruction, and it's a fielder impeding the progress of a runner. So if the fielder is, as Ben said, is touching the very outside corner of a base, the runner should be running the inside base if they're running it well. And if they do have to change their running path, or they have to slow down because a fielder is on a base, then as an umpire you should be calling obstruction or signaling obstruction.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the fielder can't be on the base. It's just they don't need to be on the base at that point. But if they're not obstructing, as an umpire, you have nothing to do. As a runner, just take the easy, your easy way around the inside circle. Everyone okay with that? Have you got the chat there, Spence? Anyone?
No, we're all good at the moment. Patrick just mentioned the runner has to have a clean path to the base, which is why we're saying, you're right, Pat, exactly. That's why we're saying you've got to be on the outfield side of the base if you want to make a play.
Yeah, not impeding the run of the runner at that point.
Yeah.
Right, let's go to slide 4.
That's tomorrow, isn't it?
That's not going. Why not?
Isn't
Okay.
Fulton?
We have infield. We have the infield fly slide. Let's get that out of the way for the moment. Okay. In the rule book is the infield fly is defined as you've got to have less than 2 outs, otherwise it's kind of no point having the infield fly rule. So only 1 or 2 outs, and a runner at 1, 2, or 3. So basically, I would simplify that saying less than 2 outs and a force at 3. That's all you need to know. If there's a force at 3 and you've got less than 2 outs, the infield fly situation could happen. And it was brought in really to protect the batting team against a pretty poor hit by their own team. So if the ball goes it goes up in the air as a fly ball, but could be caught, and the rules say with ordinary effort by any of the infield players, then you will call an infield fly. Because if they're not out, then effectively you've got a double or a triple play could be made on that play. So you, as an umpire, must call the infield fly given those circumstances. The batter at that point is out, and runners don't have to run. So it takes away the chance of the double or triple play. That actually only would be a double if you got. I suppose you could have 0 outs. So if we go through the 2 statements, and then we'll do the poll again, and come back and go through it a bit more. When the infield fly rule is called, the ball is still live.
And then on an infield fly call, are runners obliged to run?
I kind of gave the answer to that one, didn't I? It's a funny rule that people, when they first start playing, seem to struggle with this. But once you get it, it's just, you think, well, why did I ever have trouble with this?
And it's great that you mentioned that, because the confusion with this rule is not limited to slow pitch in any way.
Right.
I have broadcast in professional games where there was a 5-minute delay where the umpires had to look up the infield fly rule because the umpire who called it didn't understand it, and the managers didn't know why it was incorrect. So this is good life advice as far as I'm concerned.
Cool. I still have a couple of people waiting to vote.
Okay.
7. Come on, who's last? I don't need to know. Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe only have 7 now. Okay, I think it looks to me like everyone's got it right. Number 1, when the infield fly rule is called, the ball is still live. Absolutely it is. It doesn't kill the game. If you wanted to, as a runner, you could still run. Bear in mind, you have to, if the ball has been caught, but for an infield fly, it doesn't actually have to be caught. They could let the ball hit the ground, which confuses some people. They think they then have to run. If the infield fly has been called, the batter is out, no runners have to run. But as a runner, you could still run after that ball's been caught, but you'd have to have tagged up or gone back to your base after it's caught before advancing. Otherwise, you could be leaving early. So the ball is still live.
And then, as you all know, because you all got it quite correct, on the infield fly call, are runners obliged to run? No, they're not obliged to run because the force has been released from them from the infield fly call. Therefore, with the ball live, they can make their own decisions.
Okay, have we got any questions on the infield fly? I'm just going to pull my blind down a little bit. Someone's going to be my eyes. Shouldn't complain.
Ken's asked the question, is there an obligation on the umpire to indicate that it is an infield fly situation? And that is most definitely. The whole call and the shout is very pertinent to the infield fly actually being operated.
You want to tell them the call and the signal, Spence?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, I'm just reading.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly, I mean, so the hand goes up above your hand.
Your head.
Your head, that's right. Doesn't go above your hand. It goes up there, and then you shout, infield fly, batters out if the ball is fair. Which
is a lot to say.
Yeah.
But if you make sure you shout the infield fly bit very, very loud, because you want your runners, all the runners on the field to hear it, the fielders in the infield, but you've got to let them know. So that's got to be a loud shout. You know, as umpires, we like to shout.
Ken followed up by asking, is there any obligation to call that it's an infield fly before the ball is hit? So before the ball is put into play. So if there's runners on first and second and there's less than 2 outs, do you have to indicate?
Well, as umpires, if we had a multi-umpire system, we would indicate to each other, but there's no obligation to let the rest of the players know. They should be aware of it.
We're not coaches.
Yeah, exactly. And don't hit the ball into a little dolly fly anyway. But yeah, the umpire doesn't have to let the teams know, just their colleagues, to make sure they've remembered. So either or any of the umpires on the field can call this. It is generally the plate umpire that does, but anyone can, any field umpire as well.
Patrick, I might have this question you've asked incorrect. And if I do, then apologies. You're saying an infield fly rule is only called when it's close to a line.
What, infield fly foul? Yeah.
Mm.
Well, the rule book actually says you call the whole thing every time.
Correct. I do.
I personally tend, if the ball's going to land on second base, if it's not caught, I tend not to finish it off or put a very long pause when infield fly. If the ball's fair, batter's out, because
I'm with you.
It's not necessary, but the rule book does say that's what umpires should call. So you can put a pause in. I mean, often I will, if the ball is going up nearish the line, I'll call infield fly, then you can see the wind catching it, it's getting closer to the line. I then add in, if fair, just to make sure that I've said what I need to say.
That's cheating.
Well, I just consider it tactical shouting.
Yeah, I'm joking.
You have time, the ball's up there usually for a reasonable amount of time before the either gets caught or hits the ground. Well, the other thing, of course, to do, if it is close to line, as an umpire has, well, an umpire more than runners, if it isn't caught, watch where it lands, and then where it ends up being touched or stop rolling, because that can determine whether the ball is fair or foul. Even if it's not caught, it can still be an out, or it could be a foul ball. So even if once you've called infield fly, watch where the ball lands, especially if the fielder doesn't touch it, and where the ball ends up, because that you need to know that to call it a fair or foul ball. Therefore, an out or a strike, and the batter potentially bats again. So you have to be aware of everything that's going on around you. Okay, I think that's all the slides we're going to do. What I was going to do, if it's okay with everybody, is put up the oh, sorry. Actually, should we do this? We'll do this bit at the end.
Mhm.
I'll bring up because there are a couple of questions asked about interference and obstruction, and this has been a very hot topic around umpiring in England, Great Britain, and other parts of the world as well. I noticed there was a comment from a Softball Canada colleague on a very, very similar question. And if I can find it, I put the ruling. I've lost it. There it is. Just going to bring it down onto the screen. Actually wrote down the wording from the rule book, which is a bit geeky, but I think it's really important that we use the rule book, the wording of the rules, because it's our Bible, if you like. And I still lost it. That's annoying.
You should have started off by apologising, because certainly in London we're having a major problem with Virgin and all the internet and everything. And I believe Reading, Jules, where's me, Jules? She gone.
What I'm going to have to do
Jules,
is share the actual rule book. Sorry,
not in
guys.
Reading. Okay, all right. In London.
I'll like the. Oh, what's going on here?
It's up. No.
I'll try to use the search facility, and it keeps. Oh, here we go. Interference. I put it into a Word document, but for some reason it won't come up on the screen. Because we have a Facebook page. We put a question up which got a lot of discussion. Some of it completely unfounded within the rule book. So I wanted to, here we go, put that up, because people were asking questions like, well, on a double play, so you've got a runner at one, the ball's hit to shortstop, touches second base, gets the runner out, and makes a throw to first, the runner's in the way. Well, where's the runner meant to go? As far as umpire is concerned, that's not doesn't matter to us. Interference is the act of an offensive player or team member who impedes, hinders, or confuses the defensive player attempting to execute a play. Now, trying to make a throw to first to get a double play, if there's a runner still running at you who's already out, straight in your line, as far as I'm concerned, they're impeding you from making the throw. We've had players say, well, do I have to throw it to hit them? Well, no, we don't want people to get injured. So in the judgment of the umpire, if they think the runner who is out is stopping the player making another play, they should be calling interference. Straight and simple. What the runner should do is more of a coaching thing than an umpiring thing. Safety-wise, I say duck, go the other way to the fielder, slide if you can, you're happy to, but get yourself out of the way. Otherwise, you're potentially going to get hurt. We certainly don't want that. So, people are saying, well, the runner can't disappear, but the rule says interference is the act of an offensive player, the runner, who impedes, hinders, or confuses a defensive player, the fielder trying to make a play, throwing or tagging. So that is all we have to go on. Anything else is completely irrelevant to us. And obstruction is, I can't remember who it was asked the question, could we explain the difference? And interference is an offensive player, a batter, a runner, getting in the way of a fielder, whereas obstruction is a fielder getting in the way of a batter or a runner. I think you get many more obstructions and interference, but they're still both have to be called. An obstruction, the definition, is a defensive player, a fielder, who hinders or prevents, that's a batter from striking or hitting a pitch ball, the catcher, obstruction. But more generally, a fielder who impedes the progress of a batter runner or runner who is legally running the bases while they don't have the ball. So our scenario earlier was, should an infielder be standing on a base when the ball's in the outfield? Well, if they haven't got the ball, they could be obstructing if they hinder the progress of a batter or a batter runner. Sorry, a batter runner or a runner. So if they don't need to be, then you think, well, why would they be? But as long as they're not stopping the runner doing their normal running line, then you don't necessarily have an obstruction. And if the field is actually going through these, we're saying about having a turn, so once the batter's hit it, it's the fielder's turn. So B2 there is, if the fielder is not in the act of fielding a batted ball, they can't be in the way. So say the ball's hit towards the shortstop, second base goes to try and cover or back up, but runs in front of the runner from first base to second base. They're not actually fielding a batted ball, so they could be obstructing at that point. But the person who's actually fielding the ball can't be obstructing. The runner then has to go around them. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a bit geeky, really, reading the rules, but it does. Yeah, I think Julie agrees. It's a bit geeky, but it does make a difference. It's a very, very simple phrase. There's nothing else that we have to worry about as umpires. So people ask, well, what should I do? Well, that's not my call. That's your coach's call, not the umpires. But I think we need to be, as umpires, we need to be calling more obstructions and interferences if they happen to help avoid people getting injured. We do have the odd occasion of the ball hitting a player in the head or body, and should the umpire have called that earlier and avoided that? Well, you have to think about that quite strongly, I think.
So we have just about 5 minutes left. I know Patrick is asking a couple more questions in the chat, but now we can open it up to any general questions. If you'd like to unmute yourself as you ask your question, you're more than welcome to ask your question that way if you can, and we'll do a quick Q&A.
Very quick.
Very quick.
Also, we've got our contact details here, so if anything comes up, you think about it later on, drop one of us a line or all of us, and we'll give you some answers. I would ask a favour though, if you're going to ask a question, please give us all the information you have. It's kind of where the runners were, where the ball was hit, where the fielders are going, so we've got all the information to ask the question. Because if you don't give us that information, we might answer a different question because we haven't fully understood it. And then when you add the other detail, it might potentially be a different answer. So it might be a little bit confusing. You'll get two answers, what you think is the same question. So all the details you can to make it easy for us to give you a straightforward answer to a question.
Yep. And if anyone has any questions for Wednesday session or that they'd like answered during Wednesday session, just send them right to me. My email is on the screen as well. I'll collate them and get them to Pete and Spence and perhaps build them into the presentation as well. So does anyone have any further questions?
I might do a quick plug. Although
Go for it.
with the current situation, we're not doing any more umpiring courses, clinics. We are endeavouring to put as much as start the process of putting our courses, our clinics up online so they can be viewed in your own time. So that's something we may have it ready for next year. I can't guarantee it, but it might make it an easier way for people to learn the rules, whether they want to umpire or just as players. So you can do it in your own time. We'll probably be running sort of tutorial sessions, live tutorial sessions like this, where you could pose any questions as a group. Because when we do our courses, you guarantee if someone's thinking about a question, you won't be the only one thinking that question. There'll be other people not sure as well. So if you have a question, don't be shy, because you can guarantee someone else has got the same question rolling around their head.
Well, I think that is just about going to do it. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thanks again to Pete and Spencer for taking the time out of their day to present, and especially for today helping me with the technical issues. Hopefully Wednesday session will move a little bit more smoothly. As they both said, our contact information is up on the screen right now. We'll post this video tomorrow on BSUK's social media, and we'll send out the link on Wednesday. If you haven't registered for Wednesday's session, you can use the same link that you used to register for this session. And feel free, and please do send the registration to anyone else who you think may have interest. Other than that, thanks so much. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you all on Wednesday. Stay healthy if you can, and stay safe.